Hello, welcome back to another Photoshop video. In this one, I'd like to look at a few different things. One of them is using the color blending mode. How might we do that? Well, we could, for instance, select this area. If we wanted the area to sort of match, what about this? This is quite a cool color, that one, right? So what we could then do is we could just fill this color entirely, fill that in, and then when we go to a blending mode of color, you should get quite a kind of cool effect there. That's an interesting effect as well, isn't it? That color itself would actually, if you did darker color, it would hide a lot of the, it would override that. So there's lots of different things that we could potentially do with that. Let's actually now bring this background into this area here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a square. We've got a, should have no fill yet. Let's just draw a random, like a photo frame thing here. And the stroke, I didn't want it to be that actually. Let's make it much bigger. And let's make this image, we'll go Control T on the, we'll do Control T here on the layer. We're just going to position it in the middle. Okay, so let's put it in there, right? Now, one way that you can actually, if you only wanted to see the border here, if you just change the blending mode here to multiply, you see that's actually going to cut out all the edges there, so that will just leave you with the actual image itself. That's a cool way if you just want to have the border and you want this layer to be on top of the actual sort of frame of the picture. Okay, now I wanted to look at this image, which is, what if we wanted to change the color? There's a lot of green in this image, right? So again, we're going to go over here for the hue and saturation. It creates, as you can tell, the adjustment layer here. Let's just take a look at this in a bit more detail now. So you have this. Now what we can do is we can go for greens here, right? And you'll notice that when we actually move it along, nothing really happens. So what you actually have to do, and that's because the selection is kind of small. So if we just add the colors we want to the selection, you'll notice that it starts to get a bit bigger, right? So now if I go for saturation, see it's actually affecting it really well. You can see the sky is being completely ignored. And I can essentially like add more and more. And yeah, if you go to this, you can turn it black and white, which is kind of cool. And but you don't want to press this button. If you press this, you see it affects the whole image. One thing you may have noticed, if we just go to, if we just put this here, one thing you may have noticed is that some areas are not being affected quite so much. So, and take a look at what happens to this when we start to add in some extra areas. So we'll add in some of the brighter ones. So I went to yellows too. So it's because the range is actually getting larger. So that's added that little section there. So now that section is changing as well. You may not want that section though, so we could try and remove that. May not want some of these things here. What about some of these darker sections? You see, when you did the darker section, it actually deselected almost the whole lot. But actually selecting the brighter sections here ends up giving a more subtle effect. But yeah, lots of different ways that you can potentially change the hue and saturation. So thanks for watching.